Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today I'm talking about my 2012 Toyota Tacoma and the Alpha Rex Nova Series headlights. We'll go over what went into the install and kind of cover, are they really worth the $1,000 price tag? Let's get into it. So there's a couple things that I worked on today. Doing some final testing on this AU car head unit before I do that review. Installed this handheld GMRS radio by Midland. And then finally, getting to the root of this video, is I did these Alpha Rex headlights. I've been running them for a couple months now, but these DRLs you can run either clear or amber, and I really wanted to see what went into swapping out the color. Ended up being super easy, so I figured after I finished that, we'd get into doing a little bit of a video on the review of these headlights. So real quick, I want to just do a broad overview of what's entailed in the installation of these headlights. First off, you need to remove the grille. You've got two 10mm bolts. Mine is actually missing, so I just typically zip tie it on this side, but you can see the other one's right here. And then you've got two clips, one on each side, here and here. And then if you've got a factory bumper, there's actually some more clips down below. But since I don't, that's really all that's holding this grill in place. And so you'll remove that. Now, you also have to remove these little guys right here. Now, there's two clips. There's one on this side and one on this side. I believe you pop this side out this way first, and then this one you pull out this way, and then you're good to go. Besides that, you've got a 10mm bolt on the headlight housing, one here, and then there's another one right there. For me, this installation was a little bit easier just because we've got the off-road bumper on the truck, and so I've got a little bit more room to work with. What I used was just a ratcheting wrench, one of those angled ones, so it kind of like came out this way, angled on right here, and I was able to get in there and make some quick work of it. In the past, when I owned that truck, it was a little bit more difficult because of the factory bumper, didn't have as much room to work, and so getting to that bottom bolt on each side was a lot more work. But in my situation, it really wasn't that bad. Okay, so my complaint about these headlights is how the wiring all works. Now you're gonna see in here, this mess right here, all this is all the wiring for these headlights. And let me explain it. So you've got this little wiring harness right here that runs to the battery, so it draws power from the battery, and then you've got this gray wire right here that runs through the firewall into the cab to this fuse tap, which is right there. And basically that little signal wire, lets the unit know that the vehicle's on and it can draw power from the battery. So this little red wire here is a wire for the DRLs. And I think it's what gives them, I think it links them together and it gives them that power it needs to give us this look, which, I mean, honestly looks really awesome, but it's a lot more light than the previous light had. And so this red wire runs from this headlight housing to the other headlight housing. Now I made a mistake. I got everything in place, hooked up the wiring, turned the car on, and unfortunately I just didn't have things secured enough, and the fan right here sucked up that wire and just chewed it up, and I had to order an entire new wiring harness from Alpha Rex to be able to replace it. So the second time around, I obviously was a lot more careful. I ran this wire alongside the outskirts of the engine bay, and basically it comes over to right here, and that is how that is set up. So besides that extra wiring harness for specifically the DRLs, Everything else is the same. You still utilize the same original connections from the previous headlights. I've got to say that the wiring is probably my biggest complaint. I know that these vehicles weren't made for this type of lighting, and so obviously there's going to need to be some changes in how these things are powered and linked up and all that kind of stuff. Overall, I kind of think they probably could have done it cleaner. They probably could have done it better, but I'm not an electrical engineer or anything like that. I also probably could have done a better install myself. But just saying, out of everything from these headlights so far, that's my one complaint, is I just wish that the wiring would have been a little bit different, maybe a little bit more clean. Now, when I first installed these headlights, the beam patterns did need to be adjusted. And the way you do that is you've got two little dials, one right there, and then one down there. And I used an 8mm ratcheting wrench to make that adjustment. It only took me a couple seconds, and we're good to go. So something that I just recently did today is I changed the color of the DRLs from clear to amber. I've been wanting to do this for a couple weeks because I've got this backlight on my Baja Designs light bar that is also wired into my DRLs that runs whenever the truck is on. And so I thought that would look all pretty good together, so I wanted to give the amber a try. Now the process of changing these from clear to amber is really simple. Now if you're like me, you got the off-road bumper, you can pretty much easily access it anytime. I'll show you guys how to in a second. If you have a factory bumper like that old second gen out there, then you're gonna want to do this and make your choice before you install the headlights, because you're probably going to have to remove the headlight completely if you still have a factory bumper, if you want to make a change later on. Underneath the headlight is this little box. Now, for me, I can easily access this with just a screwdriver. I can take this top off, and inside, you're going to see a little wiring harness. This guy right here. Now, if you leave this unclipped, it will be white. If it's clipped like it is right now, it will be amber. Now, some people I've seen on some different forums have had some problems with condensation in the headlights. I haven't experienced anything like that yet, and where I live in Southern California, we're actually having a pretty decent winter for Southern California. I've had these things out in the snow, in the mountains, and so far I haven't had any of those condensation issues that I've heard about myself. Obviously, if I do, you guys kind of keep in touch with the channel. I'll report back on those. As far as their performance and their brightness, they're pretty bright. They're great. Comparing them to the last LED bulbs that I had on my stock headlights, there's a video a couple weeks back. You guys can check that out. Nowhere close to that level of brightness, but honestly, these things are fine. I've got a ton of off-road lighting on my vehicle, and so when I'm on the trail, I'm good to go. These things are really an aesthetic upgrade more than anything. They really transform the look of the truck, and so kind of let's talk about that for a second. So I hate to say it, but I think these trucks really kind of make them look like more like the third generation of Tacoma. Now, not saying that that generation is any better than this generation. Personally, I don't know. I mean, I think they're both super rad. I don't think I really have a preference. I've told you guys in the past, the reason why I went with the second gen was I was on a budget and third gen was out of reach. I've been incredibly happy with this truck, and so it's not like I'm splitting hairs over what generation it is. But it gives it a really good look. It gives it a modern look. I think the daytime running lights make the truck look super aggressive. I'm gonna flip on the actual headlights for you guys real quick. So you get these three projectors when the light's actually on, and then this fourth is gonna be your high beam. So let me give that a go real quick. So this would be the three headlights plus the high beam. In my opinion, these things look awesome. So this is what you're gonna get from your turn signal or your hazards. Personally, I think it gives the truck a super rad look. Now, if you don't hook up your DRLs correctly to all that wiring process that I showed you earlier, this is the hyper flash that you're gonna get. Now, when I first hooked mine up, obviously I had that problem, the wire got chewed up and I didn't have everything hooked up correctly, and so this is what I was getting whenever I was turning on my turn signal. The only reason that it's doing it right now is because that fuse tap goes into the ignition fuse tap, and so the truck's not on right now, so that's why it's doing it. So are they really worth the $1,000 price tag? You know, at first I was really having an issue with that whole wiring setup. It was really driving me crazy for a couple of days, but I gotta be honest, after a couple of days I got over it, and ever since I've made this upgrade to the headlights, I've really enjoyed what it's done to the look of the second gen Tacoma. I just think it looks so good. It's got a great aggressive look, and overall I've been really happy with it and I haven't personally regretted it. However, you know, there's definitely some cheaper options out there for somebody who just wants to increase the light output or maybe just give it a little bit more of a modern look. There's other options out there that are definitely a lot cheaper. I'm pretty sure this is the most expensive option. I'm happy with it. I hope you guys liked the video. If you want to see what the taillights looked like, I also did those a couple weeks ago, and you can check this other video right here, wherever I've got it linked. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you out there.